Welcome in, one and all. Welcome in, one and all. Happy American Thanksgiving, everybody south of the border. That is the Fox intro, and that's probably my favorite intro when it comes to NFL intro songs. I feel like I've said intro about four times already. Wow. Very repetitive, if I'm going to say that. So, it's, as I said, it is American Thanksgiving this Thursday, and there are three games on tap, and it's tradition to have three games on tap. And I believe for the first time in a few years, they're actually all divisional matchups. I've always wanted just to have divisional matchups. And then when you have like an AFC versus an NFC opponent, it just doesn't have the same feeling because this is huge implication for these teams because these teams are trying to either climb over each other, trying to catch up to one another in order to secure a spot in the NFL postseason. So a big matchup for a lot of teams in Week 12, starting with the two teams you can see on your screen with the Green Bay Packers, and they're heading in to Detroit to take on the Lions. The Packers are sitting at 4-6, two games below 500, while the red hot Detroit Lions are on top of that NFC North, sitting at 8-2. So I'm going to give the edge to the home team in this matchup. I just believe that theoretically, what the heck's going on here? There we go. Theoretically, the Lions have proven to be the more dominant team this season, and I think I said this in my review that the last time this team was 8-2 was back in like 1962. So you have to go back almost 50 years or 60 years. So it's unbelievable that it took, actually, it would have been almost 80 years. Yeah, this is the 2020s, 1960s. That would have been almost 80 years ago. Wow. Or 60 years ago. I can't math today. I'm sorry. But it's been a long time. We'll put it that way for the Detroit Lions. And good for them. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. And God forbid that they go on a losing streak or go and get key injuries to players. But this is a team that's looking like they're going to get their first divisional championship since they were in part of the NFC Central back in the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. So, so I'm going to give them the edge to the Lions on the first of three games for Thursday matchups. The next one takes place in Texas, where we have the Dallas Cowboys, and they're taking on the Washington Commanders. Should see your teams on the screen right away. So the Commanders are coming into this matchup three games below 500, sitting at 4-7, while the Cowboys are looking unreal. 7-3 is where they sit at this time of the year. I'm going to give the edge to the home team in this matchup. I just believe that the Cowboys, they're proving a lot of people wrong because I shouldn't say they're proving a lot of people wrong. They're certainly doing extremely well, and they're technically two games behind the Eagles for first place in that NFC East. So it's not like they're trailing that by that much, but it's just hard when the Eagles are playing as hot as they are. I still made my prediction back in the summer. I believe the Cowboys are almost guaranteed to get at least a minimum of a wild card position with these upcoming playoffs. I know there's still 7 weeks to go in the season, so anything can happen. But I'm still in favor of the Cowboys making the playoffs yet again. As for the Commanders, I think it's just going to be another tough season. Again, when you're three games below 500, especially this late in the year, it's hard to go on a winning streak. And not just that, you have to rely on the teams that are ahead of you to start going on losing streaks. So you can win you can win out the rest of your season. But again, if teams ahead of you are also winning their season schedules, it's almost impossible to play catch up. So yeah. So with that, like I said, I will give the edge to the home team in this divisional matchup. The next one takes place in Seattle, where we have the host Seahawks, and they're taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And voila. So the 49ers are coming into this matchup sitting at 7-3, while the Seahawks are just one game below them in the standings, sitting at 6-4. As much as I want to give the Seahawks the edge in this matchup, they just haven't seemed like themselves, if I want to be completely blunt. Whereas the 49ers, after they made that trade with Chase Young, they're looking like a better defense. Brock Purdy's turning into a decent quarterback, a pretty good quarterback, I should say. So I will give the edge to the away team in this matchup. So for the Thursday matchups, I believe two home teams will win and one away team will secure a victory on Thursday. The next matchup takes place on Friday. It's kind of an odd schedule, but it is what it is. Now we're guaranteed football like 4 out of 5 days, which is fantastic. when we have the Miami Dolphins, and they're heading into New York to take on the New York Jets. So a lot of divisional matchups in week number 12. The Dolphins are sitting at 7-3, while the Jets are 2 games below 500, sitting at 4-6. I'm going to give the edge to the Dolphins in this matchup only because they always seem to win against losing teams. And this is a key matchup for the Dolphins, especially if they're going to be competitive in that AFC East. They're technically a game and a half above the Bills for that top spot, so it's not like they're breathing down their neck. But if the Dolphins lose this matchup and the Bills happen to win their matchup, then the Bills will just be half a game behind them. So this is a very key matchup for this Dolphins squad, especially if they want to be competitive and secure their first AFC East title since like 2009, 2008. All right, now the rest of the matchups take place on Sunday and Monday. There are no bye weeks for any teams in week number 12. The next one takes place in Atlanta, yet another divisional matchup. When I first looked at the schedule, I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine if all teams were playing their divisional rivals, but there are like 5 or 6 games that have either interconference rivals or interconference or, oh my God, I can't even speak. You'll get to them. I'll get to them. It's very hard for me to explain. Anyways, so with this matchup, we have 2 teams that are kind of like neck and neck in the NFC South standings. The Saints are at 500 coming into this matchup at 5-5, while the Atlanta Falcons are sitting at 4-6. As I've mentioned before, when it came to this division, I believe this is going to be the weakest division in the NFC. Whoever gets the crown most likely will secure a 4th seed in the standings when it comes to the playoffs. And just like last year when the Bucs got it at 7-9, I believe, or 7-8 and 9, they were just a game below 500. It was 8-9. I apologize. That I believe this is probably going to be yet another one of those scenarios. Again, I don't see either of these teams going on 5-6 game winning streaks. They've been very streaky when it comes to this season so far. I like the Falcons they've shown signs of being a good team, but then the next week they'll fall apart. And the same thing with the Saints. Yeah, they have a great quarterback in Derek Carr, but sometimes he can muff it up, if I'm going to be PG about this. So I'm going to give the edge to the Saints. I know I just crapped on them, but I just believe that they should be able to get a decent game. Again, when it comes to division games, they're very key, especially, as I just mentioned, when you're trying to secure that division crown and obviously get home field advantage in the playoffs. So I'm going to give the edge to the Saints. They should, doesn't mean they will, they should get the victory over their arch rivals. The next matchup takes place in Ohio, where we have the Cincinnati Bengals, the Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals, and they're taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So yet another divisional matchup for week number 12. The Steelers are coming into this matchup after a tough loss to the Browns just a week ago at 6-4, while the Bengals, after a tough Thursday night match loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Wow, if only I could speak. And obviously they lost Joe Burrow for the rest of the season. So for the Bengals, this is going to be a very tough road for the rest of the season. If I'm going to be completely blunt, when you lose your main guy, it's hard to overcome. Now, other teams like the Vikings, they managed to get Josh Dobbs, and I believe he won 3 games in a row for them up until they lost to the Broncos last week. But again, can whoever it is that's going to be the quarterback, again, I probably should have done my homework on this, so I apologize. Can this person elevate their game and help the Bengals secure a victory and try to stay competitive in that AFC wildcard? Because I'm going to be completely honest with you, I believe the division is out of reach when you're already 3 or 4 games behind the Ravens. So I believe it's going to be very tough to secure a division title. Like I said, when you're already 3 games behind and you already have the Steelers, Browns, and obviously the Ravens ahead of you in the standings. So coming into this matchup, the Bengals are sitting in last place in that AFC North. And with that being said, I will give the edge to the Steelers in this matchup. I just believe they are the better team on paper, and they should be able to bounce back. I'd be very shocked if they lose 2 divisional matchups in 2 weeks. Next matchup takes place in Texas, where we have the shocking, very surprising Houston Texans, and they're taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who would have guessed that this late in the season we'd be saying Jacksonville is just a game above this team in the standings. I remember when I made my prediction in the offseason, I thought that the Jaguars and the Titans would have been neck and neck in that AFC South for the division crown, but it's actually the two teams you can see on your screen. The Jaguars are coming into this matchup sitting at 7-3, while the Texans are just a game behind them, sitting at 6-4. On paper, I believe a lot of people would pick the Jaguars in this matchup. There's just something about this Texans squad that they're resilient and they don't seem like they're going away anytime soon. It's not a fluke that they're in the position that they're in. They're in a hunt right now for a wild card position. But again, if they can secure a victory over their divisional rivals, they could easily jump into first place in that AFC South division. So with that being said, I am going to give the edge to the home team in this matchup. Our next matchup is still in the AFC South, but it's not a divisional matchup this time. Like I said before, there are the odd games where you have one team from the AFC taking on one team from the NFC, and this is one of those matchups. So we have the Indianapolis Colts, and they're playing host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are coming into this matchup sitting at 4-6. They're obviously two games below 500, while the Colts are at 5-5 after their bye week in Week 11. This is a tough matchup for me to call. Again, I haven't really been overly impressed by either team thus far. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've seen their tape, seen their highlights. Like I said, one team can look hot one week and not the next. And with the Colts, it's give or take. They got an ugly win against the Pats in Week 10, but that was over in Germany. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When it comes to this matchup, I'm like completely lost when it comes to words. I'll just give the edge to the Colts. All right. So the next matchup takes place in the NFC East, where we have two teams that are very familiar with each other, but they're both on the losing side of things when it comes to this particular season. So I remember back in 2008 and obviously in 2012, both the Pats and the Giants met each other in the Super Bowl. They both had fantastic teams then and there. You had your Eli Manning on one side, you had your Tom Brady on the other, and both their defenses were pretty decent as well. But ever since both those guys left their respective squads, obviously Eli retired back in 2019. Brady left New England in 2020 to go to the Bucs. Both these teams have just been a shell of themselves, to say the least. Yeah, New England made the postseason back in 2021, and they faced the Bills in the wild card position. But other than that, they've had losing seasons. Like I said, in 3 of the 4 years that Brady has not been their quarterback. As for the Giants, there were a lot of expectations coming into this season. I think I had high hopes for this squad, but ultimately they have just completely come off the tracks and are derailing out of control. So with that being said, the Giants are sitting at 3-8. They had a big win over the Commanders last week, but again, 5 games below 500 this late in the season. I believe the word playoffs isn't even a discussion at this point. And speaking of playoffs, it's going to be 2 consecutive seasons, I truly believe, unless the Patriots go on like a 7-game winning streak and everybody else in the AFC decides to crap the bed. They're coming into this matchup sitting at 2-8. Just like the last game, this is very tough to call. I'll give the edge to the Giants just for spits and giggles. I could easily be biting my tongue. I'm sure Belichick, he is a defensive genius. There's no question about that. But again, I always say this, that he needed Brady more than Brady needed him. So with that being said, like I said, it's a flip of a coin, honestly, at this point, but I will give the edge to the home team in this matchup. All right. Now off to Tennessee, where we have the Titans, and they are playing host to the Carolina Panthers. So as I said when I was talking about the Jacksonville game and Houston game, there were a lot of high expectations for these Titans coming into this year because it was like a make or break year. They had like 3 consecutive seasons where they made the postseason and they looked like they were going to be a threat. I remember back in 2019, they went all the way to an AFC Championship game, ultimately lost to the Patriots, and that's as close as they've ever gotten to the Super Bowl since then. And Tannehill's been on thin ice. I believe he's been benched, if I'm not mistaken. Derrick Henry, yeah, he has good games, bad games, but for running backs, it's very tough to maintain a career in the NFL. If I'm going to be completely blunt and honest with you, how many times have you seen a running back either get cut by a team or go for another retirement? It seems like it's more passing than anything. And now that we have quarterbacks that are dual threats that can throw it and run it, it's like running backs are just there, in my opinion. Um, the Titans are coming into this matchup sitting at 3-7, while the Carolina Panthers still only have one win on the year. They're sitting at 1-9. I'll give the edge to the Titans in this matchup. I believe they should be able to defeat the Panthers. I mean, 9 other teams were able to do it, so why can't the Titans? Man, that's so blurry. Holy cow. Anyway, I'm almost done doing the previews. So there's no point in editing or trying to stop this now. All right, now we're back to a divisional matchup as we have the Arizona Cardinals, and they're taking on these, I want to say St. Louis Rams. It's the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday afternoon. So the Rams are coming into this matchup 2 games below 500, sitting at 4-6, whereas the Cardinals are sitting at 2-9. Again, one of these matchups where neither team has lived up to their hype. Obviously, there wasn't that much hype for the Cardinals because Kyler Murray didn't start playing until 2 weeks ago, so they knew they were going to be a dumpster fire from the get-go. Whereas the Rams, I thought they'd have a bounce-back season after missing the playoffs last year. But again, 2 games below 500. Not necessarily out of it because that NFC is actually weaker than the AFC when it comes to a wild card position. But again, if the Rams happen to lose this game, they'll be 3 games below 500. Then you only have 6 games left after this. And I don't see them going on a 6-game winning streak, let alone other teams in that conference go on 6-game losing streaks as well. So this is a very key matchup for the Rams if they want to try and stay competitive and stay in a playoff hunt. I'm going to go with an upset on this one. I believe Kyler Murray will show up, and as long as he doesn't play Call of Duty, and they should be able to secure their 3rd win of the year. All right, off to Denver, the team I cheer for. They're taking on the Cleveland Browns. For both these squads, this is a huge matchup with obviously playoff implications on the line. The Browns are sitting second in their division after they beat the Steelers just last week. The Broncos finally got back to 500 football after starting the season off 1-5. So again, very crucial matchup for both these teams. The Browns are still trying to stay competitive. Maybe if they get a victory and say the Ravens lose, then that can kind of keep them close, neck and neck, in that AFC North division. But as of right now, I believe they are sitting in a wild card position, so it's not that bad. As long as the Browns are in a playoff position, I'm sure the fans and organization will be very happy. As for the Broncos, we haven't heard the word playoff since the 2015 season, so this is a crucial game for this team. If they can secure a win, they can get above 500 for the first time this year, and maybe they can still be in a hunt for an AFC wildcard position. The big thing is, and this would be a crazy what-if scenario, is that say the Broncos were to win and maybe the Chiefs were to lose, then the Broncos would technically only be 1 game behind the Chiefs, but I am not a betting man, and if I was, I sure as hell wouldn't bet against the Chiefs. Yeah, they lost last week to the Eagles, but it's very scarce for them to lose 2 games in a row. So I'm going to give the edge to the Browns. As much as I want the Broncos to win, and I desperately need them to win, my God, it's like a decade of darkness where you have no playoff action and you're always below 500. But I will give the edge to the Browns in this matchup. They should be able to secure their 7th win of the season. Speaking of those pesky Chiefs, we're now back to divisional matchups, and they are playing against the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'll pull up the teams' matchups. Where are we? Here we go. Kansas City Chiefs and Las Vegas Raiders. So the Chiefs, as I mentioned, they did lose last week, but they're still sitting at 7-3, and Vegas lost last week. They are sitting at 5-6. So just like with a lot of games, very crucial for both teams. The Chiefs, obviously, like I said, I can't see them losing 2 games in a row. If they did, well, then I guess they do. But coming into this matchup, especially now they're not playing against Garoppolo, again, no disrespect to the starting quarterback for the Raiders, but I think it'd be tough for them to go up against this Kansas City Chiefs defense, who haven't really been that horrible. Just their offense has not been themselves. Especially this past season. I believe they lead the league in like most drop passes, which is unheard of, especially when you have a talented quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. So I will give the edge to the Chiefs in this matchup. Like I said, I believe they are a team still can easily get that AFC West crown. I'd be very shocked, like I said before, if they were to lose 2 games in a row. The next matchup takes place in the city of brotherly love, where we have the host team, the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the best record in the entire NFL, and they're taking on a team in the Buffalo Bills. So the Eagles are sitting at 9-1, and with the victory last week, the Bills are back to above 500, sitting at 6-5. I'm sure for the Bills, it's been a very rocky season. Again, you lose one, you win one, you win one, you lose one. It's tough. And again, when you're trying to compete and stay competitive, and it's very tough because there's winnable games that they're losing, and I believe I had them picked as like one of the contenders for a Super Bowl to get into a potential conference matchup. But at this rate, again, if you lose this matchup, you're back to 500, and then good luck trying to chase the Dolphins. I believe this is a big game for both the Dolphins and for the Bills. Obviously, if the Dolphins win and the Bills lose, the Dolphins pretty much have the AFC East crown. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I know there's still 6 more games to be played after this one, but this is a crucial game for the Bills. For the Eagles, what else can you say? Like I said at the start, this is the best team in the NFL. There's no question about it. They should be Super Bowl bound. I know at the start of the season, I said it's probably going to come down to the Eagles or the 49ers, but the Eagles are like 2 games above the 49ers in the standings. So obviously, if the playoffs were to start right now, the Eagles would have home field advantage. And I believe, speaking of home field advantage, they are playing at home. They should be able to secure their 10th win of the season and just getting that much closer to potentially getting a bye week for the postseason. All right, now we are off to Los Angeles, where we have the Chargers, and they are playing host to the Baltimore Ravens. There we go. You should see the teams on your screen as we speak. So the Ravens coming into this matchup as the top team in the AFC, sitting at 8-3, while the Chargers charged it again last week against the Packers. Big surprise. They're now 2 games below 500, sitting at 4-6. So for one team, the Chargers, a lot of expectation into this season, especially after they made it last year. It's looking very dim at this point. They are now last in that AFC West division. And like I said, with any team that's below 500, the only way you can get into the postseason is you have to rely on other teams that are ahead of you to go on losing streaks. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. So this very well could be a crucial game for the Chargers. If they lose this game, I'll just say it right now. If they lose, they're out of the playoffs. Because you're at this point, you'd be 3 games below 500, and you'd have to win 6 games just to be 3 games above 500. And for me personally, I just don't see that happening. As for the Ravens, again, the best team in the AFC. I believe they still will be the best team in the AFC. They should be able to secure a big game, even though they are away from home. And the Monday night matchup. We're back to divisional rivals as we have the host team and the Minnesota Vikings, and they're taking on the Chicago Bears. So for the Bears, again, a very tough season. They're coming into this matchup sitting at 3-8. So obviously the word playoffs is completely gone out of the equation. They're just kind of playing for pride, seeing maybe they can play spoiler potentially for the rest of the year. And as for the Vikings, they had their 5-game winning streak snapped after losing to the Broncos last week. I got a lot of faith in Josh Dobbs. He has proven that he is a pretty decent quarterback. I'm not going to say elite or great. He's a decent quarterback because I believe he was acquired from the Cardinals. And up until their loss against the Broncos last week, he did have 3 straight wins, if I'm not mistaken. Or it was at least 2 or 3 games where they had wins. So he can obviously help this team get to the victory, whether he does it through the air or on his feet. Again, like I said before, quarterbacks now more than ever are a dual threat. You no longer just have the guy who just stands in the pocket, hopes for someone to get open. you now got to be mobile and move all around, because if you get pressure coming from your left side, you got to run to the right, or vice versa. Or if you get pressure from both sides, you got to take off running and hope to God you don't get a sack and get a few yards gained. But yeah, like I said, he's a pretty decent quarterback, and he can do just that. Is Oh my God. Now I'm just kind of rambling on, but again, he's no Kirk Cousins, but he'll do. That's pretty much all I was trying to say. Is he's not great, but oh my God. Oh, why am I stuttering when I get to the final part of this video? Wow. I'm just going to say this before I start mumbling my words even more. I'll get the edge to the Vikings. There, I said it. Wow, I could not have tried to make that more complicated than if I tried. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 divisional matchups for week number 12. It's too bad they couldn't all have been divisional matchups, but I know when it comes to the scheduling, you can only do so much. But it's going to be very interesting. I believe this is the most we're going to see divisional matchups for any weeks to come. Before I let everyone go, I'll just say, so far when I made my predictions and my results, I am 90-54, so a pretty damn good record considering we're well over halfway through the season. We'll see how my record stands, I should say, by next Tuesday, when I will upload a video of all of my reviews. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative at the same time. As always, take care.